turn. Okay, so that in the event of an emergency, we can shut it off really quick. Okay, the oxygen valve, we must turn it on all the way. Okay, this is a double seated valve, so it's got a seat at the bottom and a seat at the top. When you open it all the way up, it seats and it seals it off. Okay, if you only crack it open halfway, then you're bound to get a leak at the top. Okay, so now we're ready to light it up. We have our pressures. We're ready to go. Let the line fill up.
You're just using the acetylene to light it?
Yep.
There we go.
The oxygen valve will turn on. Get a little more acetylene going on. General rule of thumb when you're setting pressure for acetylene is for the proper tip pressure is to have, so you're just about outside that smoke range, right? Then you know you've got proper pressure coming from for the acetylene.
So it'll otherwise it will carbon up a lot, these little snowflakes.
Well, if you get that, then you've just got too much acetylene, not enough burn time, right? So it's too cold at that point, so it's not burning all of the acetylene. It's not flowing fast enough to burn it. So now we'll open the oxygen valve. This is what is called a neutral flame. This would be called a carburizing flame. So we have an excess of acetylene. That would be an oxidizing flame. We have an excess of oxygen. Okay. We want a neutral flame. At a neutral flame, the combination of the oxygen and acetylene, when they're burnt together, they create a CO2 gas. That CO2 gas helps to protect the steel so it doesn't burn and it doesn't oxidize. What you're looking for is to oxidize when you interject the oxygen through the oxygen stream in the middle. So it's that oxygen stream that actually cuts the metal, rapidly oxidizes the metal when it's red hot. Okay? So you would preheat the metal till it's cherry red and interject the oxygen. Start to crack. Okay?
So what's the percentage when you get the neutral flame? What's the percentage of oxygen and acetylene?
Good question.
Should be 50%.
You don't know.
No,
50.
I would have to.
I think I find it's 50% actually.
Yeah.
50% oxygen, 50% acetylene, because to make them match, you're
To balance them?
Yeah, to balance them, you're looking at 50-50 to get a neutral frame.
Okay.
That's been my experience anyway.
Okay. I'd have to do the science on that one, I think, because to be specific about it, I couldn't.
Okay.
Right. So that in a nutshell is how you set it up and how you light it. Tearing it down, you must close these valves first. Then we want to release the pressure. We always want to do fuel first, right? You light with fuel first, you tear it down, fuel first. Everything, you shut it off, fuel goes first. Take the oxygen out of it. Now we've got no more pressure in the system. Everything's down. Okay? So now we can take everything.
So, and when do you worry about the oxygen valve on the tank?
I'm sorry.
When do you worry about the
Putting the protective cap on whenever you're transporting.
no the valve on top? When do you turn that?
Regulator?
Yeah.
To undo this,
No, the other one.
this
That-
one,
Yeah.
it's already shut.
Yeah. So that goes very first or after that?
We shut this one first,
Fuel first,
Yep.
and
and
then
then shut the oxygen. And then you take the fuel away out of the system,
yeah.
and then you use the oxygen to purge the whole system,
Right.
right?
Got it.
Purges out the torch. You're not left with any acetylene remnants anywhere.
Got it.
Okay?
So can you store the acetylene bottle like you must store it indoors, out of sunlight?
No, you can store it outside, but it's better, both oxygen and acetylene would be better if they were in a covered area,
Yeah.
out of sunlight.
So in worst case scenario, if someone were to accidentally leave it in sunlight, would it change anything?
Pressure
point.
inside the bottle might be increased.
But not to the point where it'd be
Blow
a bad
up.
situation.
That would depend on whether you're leaving it in the Sahara Desert or whether you're actually
Let's
leaving
say
it
in BC.
So the Okanagan hot July day.
If it was 40 degrees outside, that would be detrimental.
Not a cool.
They're, yeah, it could be potentially a
That
bomb.
28.
A bomb.
Hmm?
Would it get up to that 28?
20
Well, we're
pounds.
just talking about pressure inside the bottle,
Okay.
right?
Mm.
The bottle itself will take about 4,000 pounds of pressure, right? It only carries 250 pounds of pressure,
It's got some.
so it has some room to move.
Yeah.
In the event that there was a fire, right, and this bottle was involved in the fire, we have 2 fusible plugs here, right? These fusible plugs would melt out, and then all of the acetylene would be taken away, right? It would still be on fire, but it would safely leave the tank. Years ago, the fusible plugs used to be at the bottom of the tank. Well, that created a problem in that when they melted off and the tank was then exposed, right, it would blow off the gas would tip the tank over, right, creating a chain of events that is really catastrophic. Okay. The oxygen bottle now, from the same pressure standpoint, it has a pressure relief valve. It's called a rupture disc. So if the pressure inside the bottle exceeds its maximum pressure, this disc explodes and the pressure is safely released out the end. Okay?
It's not under spring pressure. It's just a disc that ruptures.
It's just a disc that ruptures, yeah.
It's unlike a propane bottle.
Yeah.
So do you trust your students putting this all together and taking it apart, or do you watch them, or is there any problems that could happen during this process?
I watch them pretty close. As they're setting it up and tearing it down, I tend to be there.
Like, what could they mess up? Just not taking
Not
it
much.
enough?
They would just, like I've had in other cases where they've not tightened some parts of the equipment, so you end up with a fire that you don't really want somewhere. So they get a little freaked out over it and they shut everything down.
They learn.
They
Hopefully.
learn, yeah.
Yeah.
But most of them are pretty sort of tentative. They don't really want to get in there. So I do it first, just so I can show them that it can be set up in about 10 minutes, and that's what they should be working for. If it takes them half an hour to set it up the first time, set it up. Right. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is, can you get to that 10-minute time? Right? And most of them do. And when they know that there's an expectation there, they get to.
So having experience like you, how long does it typically take you to set it up? Under 10 minutes or 10 minutes?
Well, if I was to be really quick about it, it'd take me a couple of minutes to do. Right? But just so I can go through it methodically, it takes about 10 minutes to do. That's it.
Okay, very
That's
good.
how it works.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Very quick and not necessarily as in as much detail as I would do in class, but
Yeah.
that's it in a nutshell.
Would you then move, like after you've done your demo, would you then move right away in the same lesson into getting them to start working with it?
If I was,
Yeah.
because I would have done this in the classroom, not
Yeah.
lighting it, of course, but I
Right.
would
Oh,
have done,
okay.
explained all of the parts and pieces and the safety
Yeah.
and all of that stuff in the classroom, then we would have moved into the shop.
Oh,
That's
okay.
where I would have
Yeah.
light it,
Yeah.
do some cuts,
Okay.
show them what the cutting is about, and then
Yeah.
move on into the cutting lessons.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So they go from there,
Yeah.
learning how to lay out different structural shapes, and how to cut them.
Uh,
And then we move from there.
yeah. So it becomes hands-on pretty quickly after you've
Yes.
done your demo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's, when we get into the shop, it's entirely hands-on for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun.
Okay?
Thank you.
Cool.